All right, hello everybody. So I have a funny story. So I was looking at my Twitter feed today, and all of a sudden I saw tons of people retweeting this cryptic tweet from Rian Johnson, the director of The Last Jedi. By the way, so this is a Star Wars Last Jedi related video, so there will be some spoilers, and I have seen the movie, but anyway, yeah. So basically, when I was seeing the movie, right, I was watching it, and I tend to agree with most people are split on this movie. I tend to agree. I'm not really a big fan of this movie, which when I'll get into a review. But for now, I want to direct your attention towards this tweet that director Rian Johnson made this morning. Okay, so if you haven't seen the movie, well, I mean, if you want to watch the movie, I guess don't listen to this part of the video or the rest of the video. But if you don't care or you've seen it already, basically, in the climax of the movie, excuse me, Luke Skywalker faces off against Kylo Ren on the Crete, I think it's called, or Salt Planet, I don't know, whatever. I forgot when it was called until somebody pointed it out on the other videos that I watched. But apparently, plot twist no jutsu, as Naruto would say, it wasn't really Luke Skywalker on that planet. He was safe at home in his little hut or whatever that planet is called, while he somehow projected force apparition on a distant planet far, far away. So of course I almost facepalmed during this part of the movie because it really doesn't make much sense. So apparently Rian Johnson, I guess, has been getting flack from other fans in the movie for putting this part in the story, since he did write the story, the script, or whatever. So he basically tries to do this weird thing where he, like, instead of, like, he makes it all cryptic and stuff for no reason. It's really funny. So basically he just zooms in on his bookshelf to this book called The Jedi Path, and basically goes to a part where it says doppelganger, which is a force technique, which I guess people were saying that doesn't make any sense. But he's like, oh, well, it's in the official canon. Well, technically it's not part of the canon anymore because they discontinued the original canon Lucasfilm. So this, anyway, whatever. So but I did check out this book. It is a real book. I think it's from Chronicle. It must have been published a while ago. But basically, okay, so let's go through this doppelganger Jedi Force power technique. So it says doppelganger, or simul-futurist, whatever, permits a Jedi to create a short-lived duplicate of himself or herself, or an external object that is visibly indistinguishable from the real item. Those who possess this ability can create phantoms of any person of their choosing, or trick an enemy to see more objects such as George that are actually present. Okay, two issues with this thing. I think a lot of people, what their issue was, at least my issue was, that my issue isn't that he created some Jedi power that quote unquote didn't exist, is the fact that Luke somehow manages to, first of all, find the planet and project a basically a force shadow clone, like in Naruto, like thousands of light years away, millions of light years, whatever, away. Notice here it says for a short amount of time. Well, in the movie, the last act of the movie is definitely not a short amount of time. So Luke was on that planet for a long while. So if he was on the planet for a long while, this totally debunks Rian Johnson's clever little explanation, because if you look at them for a short amount of time, I'd still sort of call, like, some sort of BS on it, but at least it would make sense. Okay, it's a short amount of time. He just did to distract the what are they called, the resistance, whatever, and so they could escape. But he does it for at least, like, the last half is half an hour or so, and he fights Kylo Ren for quite a few minutes. Well, that doesn't make any sense. And my second issue with this is that Luke is portrayed as a hermit in this movie. Like, he gives up on training anybody and being a Jedi, so he just wants to live by himself. So if he gives up, quote unquote, on all this stuff, how would he learn? First of all, know how to do a doppelganger, which I don't question that he could do it. But to do it, first of all, when you're an aging Jedi, is a hard task, and doing it, projecting yourself across galaxies or across light years, is even trickier. Is probably one of the hardest tasks in Star Wars to do, and he's out of practice because earlier in the movie, Rey bests him, right? She just, like, like beats him up almost. So clearly he hasn't really practiced in a while. So how could he all of a sudden just randomly put up a force ghost thousands of miles away? I wouldn't mind so much if he was on crate, or and he like hit somewhere and then he made this force apparition that looks like him and fooled Kylo Ren, and that would have been awesome. Then the real Luke comes down, you can't tell them apart. That would have actually made an interesting premise, but an interesting fight scene. But no, I'm sorry. Apparently they just decided to do this. And problem number 3 I have with this is I think what happened was Rian Johnson kind of screwed himself in the script. Like he needs to have a final battle, but Luke is nowhere near battle ready. So he's like, oh no, how am I gonna make him fight when I've already portrayed him as a hermit who doesn't want to battle, who doesn't want to do anything? Well, I'll use this this force ghost thingy to make him battle. So what was I gonna say? I'm trying to think. I had a thought that escaped me. Let me, if I can think about it. Oh yeah, another thing. I'm pretty sure this doppelganger technique is meant to use in short distances, or at least in the vicinity of the Jedi user. You can't just randomly no clip in a video game to wherever you want. I mean, if Luke could just do this whenever he wants, I guess that means everybody in the past Star Wars, all the past movies could just do this. Like maybe Obi-Wan too in Episode 4 did the Force Ghost, and maybe he's still alive. Vader too, maybe the Emperor Palpatine too did. Like it's like doesn't make any sense. It's meant as a tactic. It's not meant as the win button where you, like the Staples easy button where you just press it and it makes all your troubles go away. That doesn't make any sense. And also, when he was doing this, Luke, why would he project the wrong lightsaber? Like, why wouldn't you just use his lightsaber? Because Kylo Ren, if he was any smarter, would know that they just destroyed that blue light, the Anakin's lightsaber in the previous scene. So you figured he'd get fooled right away, but I'm scratching my head because it's so weird. Well, here's what I would have done. I would have had it so that Luke goes on crate, gets his X-wing, which they allude to in the beginning of the movie when Rey first goes on the planet. You see his X-wing in the water. What would have been really cool is if Luke had, summoned the curse, said, I'm gonna go back to fight. I may be old, but I still got some fight in me. He would have gone up, went on Crete, and then actually and then when they were attacking him, those ATSTs or whatever, is that what they're called? When they attacked him all at one time, when Kylo Ren says, "Oh, fire!" then he could have used force speed, and that would have made more sense. Because I know in Jedi games, especially I play a lot of Jedi Outcasts, even Knights of the Republic, you can get force speed as one of your techniques. So why not just use that? That to me would make more sense. It makes more sense to me for a Jedi to use force speed in vicinity of where they are than using doppelganger thousands of light years away. That doesn't make any logical sense. So anyway, yeah. So and then of course Luke after this passes away, which I think is also BS because Luke doesn't the Luke we know, the one that George Lucas wrote and that the Star Wars expanded universe and lore in the story is that Luke isn't the guy who quits. He learned that in Episode 5. I mean, even Episode 5, when he was a novice, he went to the Cloud City to try to save his friends because he was thinking of them. And then in Episode 6, after he finds out, he learns from Yoda, Obi-Wan, and that he can't run away from any of his problems. So why would they backpedal on that in The Last Jedi and have him not want anything to do anything just because one guy went evil? I mean, how is Obi-Wan supposed to feel? His student too went evil, Anakin, and not only does he go evil, he murders a bunch of Padawans and a bunch of people, and does all this stuff. And Obi-Wan never gives up. I mean, even till his old age, till he's about to pass away, he never gives up. And Yoda too never gives up. So to have Luke just give up and send a Force ghost instead of his real self, that's coward tactics. That's not what a Jedi does. A Jedi, at least from my understanding, is gonna do what he or she can to prevent the situation from getting any worse, even if that means maybe not sacrifice, but trying working hard hours or doing a lot of training. So that's what I mean. And to add insult to injury, I just found this out when I was reading this tweet again. Basically, where was it? Was it over here? No, okay. Oh, there's a reply here. If I can find it for you. Oh man, okay. I'm just gonna. Okay, yeah. So basically, this guy named Peter Scaretta from Slash Film. I guess he works at Slash Film, which is what is he? Let's see. I guess he's a writer at Slash Film. Basically, he's saying like, Ryan Van's problem is a billion appear in Legends book. But I think the Christians that the billion said well up in the film. Yeah. Okay. So basically, he's saying that I think he's right. It's not used properly to resolve the climatic. And it is a valid issue. He's absolutely right. And what does Rian Johnson say? He's like, "Oh well, I can't talk to you now, but this is my best. This is my best rebuttal." So it's basically that scene in Episode 5 where Luke and Leia like telepathically talk to each other. He's like, "Well, they did it before." No, they didn't do it before. First of all, okay, let's debunk this too. They were on the same planet. They were in the vicinity of the same world. They weren't far from each other. Luke was in like the trash compactor of like Bespin, and Leia and Lando were in the Millennium Falcon. So he was in the vicinity to contact her telepathically. He wasn't that far off. Number two, they're twins. So there are studies that show. Well, I mean, at this point in the movie series, there weren't twins yet, and people they didn't know they were twins. They were related. So okay, but retroactively, let's say that they count as twins here that they didn't know about. There have been studies that shown that twins can they have like twin moments where they're like on the same page or whatever. Obviously, they have to be in the same room. But I just wanted to point out there. And point number 3. Luke can use the Force, right? And the Force isn't something. People have this misconception that the Force is only used by Jedis. Well, not really. The way it sets up in the original trilogy is that the Force is like something that's around everybody, and only certain people in the Star Wars can master it. So, and Leia, being obviously the daughter of Anakin Skywalker, the brother of Luke, a Jedi, is obviously going to have some of that, be able to have some of that Force power with her, because she's part of that family that are Force wielders. So it's not unlike, if you know in music, some people, some musicians and even some regular people have something called like perfect pitch, where they're able to where you play a note and they instantly know what note it is. But even people who don't know music, apparently, from what I understand, and have perfect pitch, are able to they'll hear the notes differently than a regular person. So it's not a far-fetched to assume that Luke and Leia can telepathically communicate with each other on short distances. And there's only 1 or 2 words, so I mean, you can't really say anything. Rian Johnson did it for the entire last act of the movie, which honestly is really, I think, is dumb, because I don't mind the Force power of a Force doppelganger, but even Naruto, the master of the shadow clone in Naruto, he knows how to use shadow clones. Even he has a hard time sustaining his shadow clones for more than a couple of minutes. Even he has to take a break. And you're telling me Luke Skywalker in this movie, who has no practice, is a hermit, doesn't want anything to do anything, knows how to is able to sustain it for this long, thousands of kilometers away? It's a bit of a stretch. There is something called suspension disbelief, but I can suspend my disbelief if it was in the vicinity, but this is a bit far, even for the Star Wars universe. What else was I gonna say? Oh, I had something else. I had another point I was gonna make. I forgot another one of my points. Let me try to think about it. Oh yeah. Try thinking about it. Yeah, okay. I can't really think about it. But what I will do is I will okay, and wait, can I think about it? Maybe wait. No, it's not coming to me. I should have made some notes before I started recording this. Oh well. Oh yeah. That's what I was gonna say. I think for this movie, what could have saved? I mean, I don't think it's a really good movie. I mean, I don't even if I took out the Star Wars app, I just don't think it's really that good of a movie, unfortunately. Which I'll explain maybe another time. I don't know how I'm gonna do a review on that yet. Should I just do it like with notes, or should I do like a script review? Anyway, what I think this movie could have saved itself is if they had an actual final fight scene between Luke and Kylo Ren. And it would have been cool if they had integrated, like I said earlier, this doppelganger mechanic where, like, oh man, Luke has two Lukes now. Can Kylo Ren tell which one is the real Luke? And, like, that would have been awesome, you know? That would have been cool. And then it would be 2-on-1. But then, like, you could have had, like, I don't know, Kylo Ren using maybe, like, rudimentary Force Lightning. And then Luke would have to, like, who knows? You could have had so much cool stuff. Like, here's what I think. In episode 1, right, a lot of people have problems with it. Like, I have some problems with it too. But at least the final scene in the movie is what we will, is what the audience is expecting. A fight between Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon. And it's a really cool scene. If people ask you if I see episode 1, you can easily say, well, I don't think the first 2/3 are not the best, but it makes up for it sort of in the last act where there's a real, full-on Jedi on Sith battle, and it's really cool. I think that a final battle between Luke and Kylo Ren on this movie could have saved this movie. Sure, the first 2/3 of it could have been like bad, but at least we could have had like a last act where, oh my gosh, Luke really fights. Because remember, we haven't seen Luke in the lightsaber in like over like 18, 19, over like 30 years. So wouldn't it be cool to see Luke, more experienced Luke, who knows what force powers he could have learned, and like, fight Kylo Ren? That would have been awesome. But no, for some reason, I think Rian Johnson rolled himself into a hole and I didn't have time to do another draft, or maybe the executives got involved and just said go with it, because who knows? We'll never really know the true story. But I think that could have saved this movie was an awesome fight scene between Luke and Kylo Ren. And that's another thing I have to point out. When people talk about the Force in the previous movies like making no sense, they're upright to a certain point. It doesn't make much sense, but it's almost always consistent. Like, from what I remember, from original trilogy, Force push, Jedi mind trick, and the Force lightning, and Force pull, and get my lightsaber, whatever that's called. Those are always consistent. They always use that. Even in the prequel trilogy, Force push, get my lightsaber, more Force push, Force lightning, and there's nothing, and Force jump, which makes you jump a bit higher, whatever. There's nothing pulled out of random, which this movie makes no sense. Another reason why. Okay, so this will be my last reason. This is my last point. Another point is that I think that if you wanted to introduce a new Force power, fine. You know what? All more power to you. But you have to sort of explain it and like either exposition, a line of dialogue, or a scene where Luke says, "Yeah, I've been training hard I've devised new Force powers or new tactics for the Force that previous Jedi haven't been able to achieve, as far as my knowledge, or the Jedi text, or all the data banks." There should have been some explanation. So I think if he had explained it, Rian Johnson, in the movie, okay, fine, it's not the best, but at least he explained it. Yeah, whatever. Luke could have said, yeah, I could do it over multiple planets. I figured out how to do it. It took me like 10 years to learn, but I finally figured it out. Like, I could breathe as easy as I can breathe. That would have made sense. It wouldn't have been the best, but to band-aid the film, I think that would have been a good reason. But no, he just randomly appears out of nowhere. Oh, I have this doppelganger ability. I can project myself across vast galaxies, whatever. Yeah. It doesn't make really much sense at all. Yeah, and considering the rest of this movie, a lot of stuff doesn't make sense in the rest of the movie. That's kind of saying a lot. So anyway, those are just my 2 cents in this movie. What did you think of this part of the movie? What are your general opinions of this movie? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to do a rebuttal to this argument that I've presented, yeah, I don't mind you do, but yeah, do like me like a nice paragraph and stuff that says why blah, blah, why you think I'm wrong, or my parts of my argument are wrong. I think discussion is good. Just don't like degenerate to I'm right, you're wrong, stuff like that. Okay, so anyway, that's it. Hopefully I'll get to my Thimbleweed Park playthrough soon enough, and Have a good night or good morning wherever you guys are, or good afternoon, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you, and see you next time.